August, Texx Talks is celebrating Women's Month with our good friends Tom's, the only music store. Tom's have generously given us the M Audio Vocal Studio Pro Kit to give away in the month of August. I'm actually using it to record this right now. The kit includes studio quality headphones and a condenser microphone that all plugs into their signature USB audio interface. Perfect for getting studio quality audio right at home. We want you, the listener, to nominate an exceptional lady that you think would benefit the most from this opportunity. Simply head over to our pinned post on social channels and tag the woman who you think deserves this gift. And make sure you follow Texx Talks for all our exciting Women's Month episodes. That's Texx with a double X. Also, if you're thinking about picking up an instrument for the first time or you're looking to upgrade, just head on over to any one of the several Tom stores around the country where their epic staff are ready and waiting to say, "How's it?" Hello and welcome to Texx Talks. I am Texx, and today I am talking to an award-winning, chart-topping singer-songwriter who commands the stage and your attention like few solo acts can and do. This Brighton-born musician is a master storyteller, seeking out the charming in the seemingly mundane and spinning songs that remind us of the importance of human interaction in an all-too out-of-touch technological world. With his intimate, folk-inflected sound, this one-man band has built a loyal following, from busking on streets to soundtracking Super Bowl commercials to opening for Ed Sheeran on a record-breaking South African tour. I am, of course, talking about Michael David Rosenberg, better known to all of us as Passenger. Mike, welcome and thank you for joining me.
I think that's the nicest anyone's ever been to me. Thanks. That was an intro and a half. Thank you very much.
That was what I was going for, so I'm super happy that I've got an A+ in your book.
Wow, I'm blushing.
But how's lockdown been treating you?
My fellow South Africans.
Where are you? I'm assuming that you've been holed up in the UK, right?
Yeah. Lockdown has been a mixture of things. I feel like that's been the case for most people. For me, I'm super lucky. I've got a house just outside of Brighton, in the countryside, so I can, I've been able to go on walks, and I've had that kind of space that I think, I just have felt so lucky to have that. But yeah, it's been tough. I'm a single man, a single guy, so that's pretty been interesting throughout lockdown, just being with myself and my cats. But I don't know, not all bad. I think it's been for me, like I've basically been touring and traveling non-stop for the last decade, and this has just kind of pressed a stop button that I don't think I have built in internally. So I think that's been if there is a plus side, that's been the one thing. Yeah.
Apart from your very soothing isolation live streams, which I've watched a few, how else have you been keeping busy during lockdown? Because I know, as somebody who travels a lot for work, like you said, it's very, very difficult when you can't go anywhere to press pause on that and to unwind. So what have you been doing to unplug?
I rescued 25 battery chickens and built them a chicken coop, and get this, that their house is called Cluckingham Palace. Don't worry
incredible.
About it. It really is incredible, and they're the happiest chickens because they've been, living in some horrible environment, and then suddenly they're in this little field in Sussex in the sunshine. So that's been really cool. And we set up a veggie patch, and all of the sort of classic lockdown maneuvers. Like suddenly it's homegrown veggies and chickens. But yeah, it's been cool, and there's even talk of getting some alpacas as well. So it's all, I don't know. As I said, I've got this lovely house with not a huge amount of land, but enough to do that kind of stuff. And yeah, I guess it's just given me the time to focus on that stuff, really.
I mean, I rescued 4 foster cats, and I thought,
oh my God.
I thought that I was doing the most. But I'm not rescuing 24 chickens.
Yeah, but chickens, like, you pop them up in a field and you give them a load of corn and then they're cool. Like, 4 cats. You rescued 4
Yes, kittens.
at one time.
Yes, at one time. And they were 6
And are
weeks
they all...
old.
Oh my God.
They're all gone now. They all got adopted. So we were the interim. We were my housemate and I.
Fine.
Yes.
Okay. Got
We
you.
were the foster parents before they got adopted. But it was quite hectic.
Is that heartbreaking when you have to give them away?
Yes and no.
Not at all. Have them. Yeah.
I think my housemate was way more torn up about it than I was.
Really?
Yeah. I was, I think like if you're fostering, you go into it with that fostering mentality of like,
yeah,
you're going to have them for 6 to 8 weeks and then they're going to go to a loving home. And the way that it transpired was actually pretty cool because the family that adopted them came to pick them up from us and we met them and their cat had just died. So it was a good transition period.
Nice. Yeah. I have 2 cats and I adore them. I'm so soppy with them, man. And honestly, I'm so thankful that they've been about over lockdown. Otherwise, I think I would have gone properly insane. Like, I'm on the edge as it is, but like they have definitely kind of kept me on the right side of it, for sure.
So I'm not sure if you remember, because I know that you do, tons of press and interviews and all of these things. But when you first came to South Africa in 2015, I think I maybe got like 15 minutes with you interviewing you backstage just after or before your sound check at Kirstenbosch.
Yeah.
And I was actually late. Sorry about that. So it ended up being like 10 minutes.
That's fine.
But I remember you told me during the interview how influenced you were by the music that Paul Simon wrote when he came to South Africa.
Yeah.
And now that you've toured South Africa 3 times, what are some of the things that stand out to you about South Africa's music scene?
Oh, good question. Yeah, I mean, Paul Simon's my favorite artist of all time, no doubt, and I think Graceland is up there with the best of what he's ever done. So yeah, it's a special record for sure. I mean, I've been to South Africa 3 times. I feel like it's always so fleeting. Like I come and it's like, for the Sheeran shows, it was just mad. It was like those 4 stadium shows in like 5 days. And even for mine, I recently just came in for, I think I was there for 4 days. So it's so difficult to actually kind of get a feel for the place. But I mean, I've met a few musicians when I've been there. And it seems like a really vibrant and fairly unique setup and unique palette, I'd say, musically and people and culture-wise. I think it's a pretty exciting scene from what I can understand of it, yeah.
I think one of the things that I notice about a South African audience is they don't just know a Let Her Go or a Hearts on Fire. They know every track from track 1 to track 10 on your album. And I think that that's quite a beautiful thing because it means that they're really engaging and they're really listening. What's your experience been like of your South African audience? I mean, just from the first gig back in 2015, my view of it is like they're really devoted.
Yeah, I mean, always when you go to a new country, you never know what to expect. Like, and going to South Africa, and I remember when we were kind of planning those gigs, and they were like, yeah, they're sort of like 5,000 capacity, and I was like, I don't think we should do things that big. I've never been to this place before, like, and we got there and everything sold out, and it was amazing, and as you say, the response was incredible. I think actually it hit me even more when I opened up for Ed, because I've opened for Ed all over the world. I've been really lucky. It's been such a massive part of my success, is the fact that Ed's been, so kind to me over the years and had me as his opening act everywhere. But South Africa was really, and I'm not just saying this, it was really special and unique. I mean, like, those shows in Johannesburg were like 65,000 people a night. Like, they're the biggest shows I've ever played in my life, and people listen. Like, I have goosebumps thinking about those shows. Like, and the Cape Town ones were incredible as well. The only reason I mentioned the Joburg ones was because they were so much bigger. But I was blown away by the response. Like, as a support act, you don't often get that. You know, in some countries, like, they're so excited to see Ed that even though they're like kind of watching, but they're also drinking beer and having a chat with their mates, and that's totally understandable. Like, you know, we're all guilty of that. We're all guilty of chatting over opening acts. But man, those 4 shows where it was like, yeah, such massive crowds and such a level of engagement was incredible. And then to be able to come back and play, you know, what was it, 10,000 people in Joburg and 5 in Cape Town. Like, the ratio of people that came back from those gigs to see my headline show was just insane. Like, I don't think we've ever had anything like that. So I think that kind of answers the question about South African audience. I think there's an amazing passion, and not just that, like, they saw it through. It wasn't just like, oh, cool, you're friends with Ed and you're opening up for him, I like you for this. It was like, no, when you come back, we're all coming back to see you. And that was a really special feeling, yeah.
So you mentioned Ed and how kind to you he's been over the years, and how the two of you have been mates. And not a lot of people know that you guys go back a few years. Did you both meet on the scene as like up and coming musos who were like watching and supporting each other's careers as you went?
Yeah, exactly. I was busking. It was my first year of busking, so I think I was 24. And I know you're thinking, surely you're only 25 now, looking at me.
100%.
Yeah. So I was 24. So that was like 12 years ago. And he was something hilarious, like 17, because I remember he couldn't get a beer at the pub we were playing at. Like, he had to drink like soft drinks. That's how young he was. But we played in front of like 30 people in this tiny pub in Cambridge. And I remember walking in, because it was like this basement pub, and I walked down and he'd started his set and you could hear a pin drop. And I just remember watching this like 17-year-old kid and just being utterly blown away by him. Like, his songwriting, his performance ability, his charisma. Like, you just don't see that in many people, let alone 17-year-olds. So I played after him, and I think he felt similarly to me. He enjoyed my set as well, and we got chatting after that, and we ended up doing a load of gigs together around the UK. And then I ended up going to Australia for like 6 months.
G'day, mate.
Busking and doing whatever else. And I came home and he'd gone absolutely tonto. Like, it had just gone massive for him.
Tonto?
Tonto.
Sorry,
you guys say that?
I've never heard that expression before.
Tonto, like, yeah. I don't know. Don't ask me what it actually means, but like it went crazy
blown
for
up.
him. Yeah.
Okay.
Tonto. Yeah.
Tonto. I like that.
You can start that off in South Africa and trust Tonto with you. That's a heavy weight.
When this podcast explodes, that's what all the cool kids are going to be using. It went Tonto.
It went Tonto. Oh, shame. Yeah. So it was kind of since then, and then as I said, he sort of he let me come on the road with him, and I think we're quite different in a lot of ways, me and Ed, but we're similar in the way that we approach music. We both work really hard and we both hustle, and I think he saw the way that I was working, not just going out and playing my songs and coming off. Like, I'd run to the merch stand and I'd try and make the most out of all of these gigs, and I think Ed really appreciates that. You know, like, we have a very similar work ethic. Yeah.
So you mentioned the busking, and then you mentioned going to Australia.
G'day, mate.
I've always one of the things I've always wanted to ask you is, why Australia? Why Sydney? Why not go and busk in Edinburgh or Dublin?
Yeah.
Why fly halfway across the world?
No, it's a really good question. I started busking, as I said, that summer that I met Ed. So it would have been like 2008 or 9 or something like that. And I busked all that summer, and I didn't have a plan at all. I was just sort of like waking up and looking where like I could go on the train. I didn't drive at the time. I didn't have any money. I didn't know what I was doing. And so I just wake up in the morning and just be like, oh, cool, I'll give York a go. Never been there. Give that a crack. And, you know, you turn up and sometimes the police would, you know, some towns are are much kinder to buskers than others. So it was a real summer of learning. But I got to the end of it and it started to get cold, and I was like, I love this and I want to carry on. I can feel that there's this momentum. Where can I go that's going to be warmer weather, that is going to love this kind of music? And where's the best place? And really, I should have come to South Africa. But Australia, I had a few mates out there, and I actually knew a few people who were busking out there already, and they were like, yeah, it's great, like, you should come. So I did, and I didn't, I thought I'd be there for a few weeks, and I ended up being there for 9 months or something, and I came home.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I that sort of begun this incredible 3 or 4 years where I would busk the Northern Hemisphere in the summer, and then I'd go to the Southern Hemisphere for the summer as well. So I literally didn't see a winter for like 4 years. It was just an
endless summer.
It was spectacular. Yeah, it was. Looking back on it, it was such a fun time. Yeah.
So playing 4 to 5 to 6 hours a day, I think that busking is a great way to improve and sharpen your craft as a musician.
Massively.
The music aside, what did you learn on the streets, if you will? Because it's not exactly like smooth sailing. It's a hard hustle, am I right?
So right. Yeah, I'd say every day that you busk, you come into some sort of confrontational situation.
Oi, who the fuck are you?
Whether it's with police, shopkeepers, like other buskers, like God knows what. I mean, so many people don't really want you there. Like, it's really interesting as a busker because the whole gig is trying to change people's minds about you. They see you busking and they make a snap judgment, like we all do with everyone that we see. And buskers don't have a good reputation, and most people think it's just, you're going to be singing Wonderwall really loud and out of tune. And I'm going to walk past as quickly and as awkwardly as possible. So I think that was always the way I looked at it. I was like, I've got to stand out. I've got to do something. I've got to prove everybody wrong. But yeah, it taught me. You're right. It, like, musically, there's nothing like it. You get paid to practice, basically. But also, yeah, it teaches you, if you can play in the street and gather a crowd, that means you can play any venue in the world. Like, those people who are walking past you are going to live in McDonald's or like Topshop or whatever. If you can stop them with acoustic music and get them to like sit around for like 10 minutes and buy a CD, any gig from that point is easy. It's not easy. That's wrong. That's a complete lie. But at least you're going into an environment where people actually want to see music. That's such a massive like difference in mentality. So I think that was learning how to engage a disinterested public was a massive part of why I am now comfortable on stage.
So if you can navigate the streets busking, you can navigate any platform, which is basically what you're saying.
For sure. I feel like, yeah. I mean, they're totally different things. I was about to say busking's harder than, those massive gigs, but it's not. It's terrifying going out on stage with a guitar and nothing else in front of 65,000 people. It's fucking terrifying. Like, there's nothing, and totally exhilarating. Can I swear on this, by the way?
Of course you can. You can say whatever the fuck you want to say.
I was going to say, because the cat's out of the bag now. Yeah.
All 4 of them.
All 4 of them, yeah. But, yeah. I think busking is... I speak to a lot of people about busking, and a lot of people say I wouldn't be able to do it. Like, it would scare me too much or whatever. And it's confronting, and things do go wrong, and not every day is a sort of fairy tale when you're busking, but when it goes right, it's such a buzz. I remember I used to work in kitchens before I was gigging as much as I could, but my day job was chefing, and it's hard work working in kitchens. For those people who have done it, you'll know. And I was getting paid fuck all and being treated terribly.
3 of you are pathetic. Can we work together as a team?
And I went busking for a weekend, and I made more that weekend than I would have made in a month of chefing. And it was that moment of just being like, this is it. This is me. I'm going to do this. Yeah.
And was there ever a moment while you were busking, in between going backwards and forwards, between the hemispheres, where you thought, like, Mike, what are you doing? Like, maybe I should just go back home and get a day job. Do you know what I mean? We all have those, as creatives, we all have those ups and downs, right? We all have those moments of, I'm living, my dream and everything is great. And then we have those really low moments of, oh my God, like, why did I choose to do this?
I was doing a Q&A recently with like this local music school here in Brighton, and the first question I got asked was something along those lines. It's like, how do you cope with those moments where you just feel like it's a completely hopeless cause and you've been wasting your time for years? I can't remember how he phrased it. I almost burst into tears. Like, it was just like, I hadn't thought about those moments for a long time. And I remember when he asked me, I was just brought back to those moments of like sitting in some horrible hotel after some shit gig or whatever had broken the camel's back that time. And you're just like, mate, what am I doing? Like, all of my mates are sort of like now in good jobs. They've got like steady, like, girlfriends, boyfriends, kids, whatever is going on. When I started busking in my early 20s, it was cool, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's so great! Like, you're traveling around and playing your guitar, how cool!" And the later the older I started to get, and it was like it wasn't new anymore. It wasn't that cool, and I'd go back to towns, and there'd maybe be 7 more people in the audience than there was at the same time last year. And there was some really desperate times, man, where I was just like, because I dropped out of school, I haven't got any other qualifications. There was never a plan B. Like, I didn't have anything else to fall back on. Did
you drop out of school to pursue music?
I dropped out of school at 17 because I was just wasting everyone's time. I wasn't focused. I didn't want to be there. I knew I wanted to make music, and I was smoking loads and loads of weed. And I was just like, I'm just not helping anyone. I'm pissing everyone off, and I'm not helping myself by being here. So I just kind of, I can't remember who I was then, really, but I just kind of knew that it was a waste of time. And yes, I did loosely drop out of school to be a musician, which, as you can imagine, my mum was delighted as her pot-smoking 17-year-old son told her that broke the news. Yeah, that was a tough one, but yeah, it's going back to those moments. They're so hard. And as you said, as a creative, I don't think you can avoid them. I don't care who you are or what you're trying to do. If you're bearing your soul through art and you have a rough time with it, it's an awful feeling. Yeah. And there's, I've always thought as well, like, if you study medicine or you're studying law or whatever, at the end of it, you're pretty much guaranteed that there's going to be that at the end. I think the difference when you're creating something is like, there are no fucking guarantees. No one is promising you anything, and you just have to be in it for the right reasons. And I think as soon as I relaxed and let go and was like, look, like, whatever happens with music, if I can make a living out of it, then that's cool. And I'm just committing myself to that life, whatever that may look like, And as soon as I did that, it started to work. It was weird.
I think, it's impossible to talk to you without talking about Let Her Go, because it was such a watershed moment for you. But I think that sometimes with such a gigantic hit like that, musicians start to resent a track as a turning point for whatever reason as their careers progress. What are your feelings towards that track now?
Nothing but gratitude. Like, I love it as a song. Like, look, like the way my vocal sounds on it, the video, like, there's so much that, of course, I would change if I could. Like we had no money. Like, we sort of did it in the way that we could. Had absolutely no idea that it was going to go on to become this gargantuan mega hit, you know. So, but as far as the song goes, like I love it. Like I think it's a really special song. I don't think it's my best song. I don't think it's my favorite song. But I'm so grateful to that song being the doorway to the rest of my music. You know, like so many people come to Passenger through that song, and hopefully many of them sort of delve a little deeper into the other records and hopefully discover that it's the only negative thing sometimes is that it's like trying to convince the world that there's more to Passenger than that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I know my fans know that, and I know that anybody who has kind of taken a bit of time to kind of like take a closer look hopefully realizes that it's not just that song. But you know, from a commercial point of view, you know, like I went to my local shop the other day, and there's a really sweet guy in there, and we always have a chat, and he was like, "Oh, I listened to your song the other day." I was like, you know, meaning Let Her Go. And he was like, "Do you think you're ever going to release another one?"
What?
I just love.
No.
I love the idea that this guy's kind of thought that I've written one song in my life, released it in 2012. It became an enormous hit, and ever since then, I've just been floating around on my pool float. Like it was just an amazing insight into like what most people in the world probably think Passenger is, because you know, like not everyone's into like folk music or whatever. And Let Her Go was the only time it burst into that kind of mainstream consciousness. So most people only know about that song. So if there is a downside to it, it's just that thing of like, I just want you to know that there's more to this than that.
Well, at least you know that here in South Africa, we know Let Her Go, Hearts on Fire, and everything from track 1 to track 10 on every album that you've ever released.
That's because you guys are the best.
But another one of your tracks that is quite beautiful and that I really love is To Be Free, which I only recently found out you wrote about your grandparents who were Jewish refugees. How do you go about tackling such like delicate and sensitive subject matter? And doing it in such a poignant and beautiful way.
I was in pieces writing that song. Pieces. Like I didn't. Sometimes when you write songs, you start writing it and you don't really know what it is yet. You know, like you've got a guitar idea and you're sort of mumbling some lyrics and you're not entirely sure. And as you start writing it, it becomes clearer and clearer what the subject matter is. And I started to realize what I was writing about. And like, you know, my dad is my dad's side. His parents were, his dad was German Jewish and his mum was Polish Jewish. And they fled to Switzerland just before shit got real in Germany, and they lived in a refugee camp. And this story, and then they went to America and had my dad, and you know, like that's the very short version of events. But this story has been ingrained in me since I was a kid. Like I've always been aware of this. So when you write about this stuff, you're tapping into such deep reservoirs of feeling, and yeah, I was just like tears streaming down my face. And I was fine to carry on with the song and writing and whatever, but it was just this kind of subconscious like pain that was coming out. It was I've never written a song like that. You know, if I write a painful song, I'm very aware of it being painful. That song was like coming from something really forgotten almost. Yeah.
What's your process? Is it you know, when you sort of sit down to write material or prep material for a new album, are you writing lyrics first and then taking it to people that you're collaborating with and adding the music? How does it work?
It's usually a guitar idea, I'd say. It's one of those classic things in life where if I sit down and try and write a song, I could sit there for 3 weeks and nothing would come out. Like if I'm running a bath and then I just grab the guitar, and start playing and not thinking about it, it happens, you know? So like,
I mean, am I right in saying that you wrote Let Her Go in like 45 minutes?
A fantastic example. Yeah. Like I was about to go on stage at this tiny little pub gig in Australia. And so I knew I had a finite time to write it. And so I started writing it. I was just like, and I think that kind of helped because I wasn't overthinking it. I was just like, I'm just going to bash this out because I've got to go
Here
on stage. Yeah. Brilliant. Just bash this out. It's crazy. It's mad. But yeah, I think it definitely worked in the song's favor that I just, you know, the thing that people relate to about that song is the simplicity of it. Like, I think that it's poetic, hopefully, but really the idea is so simple and everyone feels that. Everyone has been through something like that. Everyone relates to it. And I was talking to somebody about this the other day about songwriting, and I was saying, like, all you're ever really trying to do is say what everyone is feeling, but perhaps they can't express it in that way. You know what I mean? And I think that's what Let It Go does so well. It's like everyone can tap into that immediately. But they can't necessarily write that song themselves, you know? So that's when you write that really special song that is universal.
Have you been writing anything during lockdown? Because, I mean, if there's anything that's connecting us all across the globe at this point in time, it's the fact that we can't go anywhere. Well, you know, those of us that aren't necessarily essential workers. So, I mean, is there anything that you've been working on while you've been in lockdown? Because I think that anything that does come out of this situation could potentially be something like we were just saying that we could all relate to on that kind of level.
Well, yeah. So I wrote a ton of stuff during lockdown and have actually released a little album called Patchwork, which it's like 8 songs, and it's just exclusively the songs that I wrote in that period. And I just kind of felt like it was a really nice thing to do. It documents such an extraordinary time. And a very specific time. And I feel like that's kind of how I look at albums now. Like I've done 11 or something, and they're less like, I don't freak out about them anymore. The way I look at them now is they're just chapters. So I felt like it was a really important thing to have a lockdown chapter. Like I want to look back at my discography and remember Patchwork as, oh my God, yeah, shit. Do you remember when we all had to lock down in 2020? Before all the hoverboards came out. Oh my God. Do you know what I mean? So, I love it. They're really simple little songs. They mean a lot to me, and you can stream it on all your favorite platforms.
Which track of Patchwork resonates the most strongest with you for whatever reason?
It's a track called Sword from the Stone, and it's, you know, you mentioned earlier about, you know, Let Her Go and perhaps something coming out of this period of time. I think if there is one of the songs that has that same sort of universal appeal, it's Sword from the Stone. It's I won't bang on about it too much, but if people have a spare 3 to 5 minutes, they should go and stream that song, and hopefully they will enjoy it.
If you don't have a spare 3 to 5 minutes, then I don't know what people are doing listening to this podcast. Go and stream that song.
Exactly.
Go
and also, like,
song.
you've got the busiest life ever.
Exactly.
Ever. Like, you need to take more breaks. Like, from a medical perspective.
Yeah, before you, like, burn out completely. But Mike, I just wanted to say thank you very much again for being our first overseas guest on Texx Talks. And when all of this is done and we return to some sort of normalcy, the next time you're in South Africa, because I know you're going to come back because you love us so much here.
Of course I will.
Please, can we do this in studio?
Yes, please.
With some coffee or tea or perhaps something stronger.
Tequila. Let's just say it now.
Oh, now we're talking.
Let's sign up to some tequila.
Okay, I'm down for that. That sounds fantastic.
Fine.
How you doing, darling? How you getting on? Any horse is running, worth betting on. How's the weather down there? I hope you're keeping warm. How you feeling, sweetheart? Are you moving on? Are you sleeping okay? Or do the nights go on and on? I hope you're eating well. I hope you're staying strong. 'Cause I'm fine and I'm not. I'm spinning round and I can't stop. I can't do this alone. The time flies and it's so slow. I'm up and down like a yo-yo. I can't do it on my own. And I've tried and I can't pull the sword from the stone. How are your mom and dad? How's your brother too? My folks are holding up. My sister's pulling through. Both the cats say hi. I know they miss you too. 'Cause I'm fine, then I'm not. I'm spinning round and I can't stop. I can't do this alone. The time flies and it's so slow. I'm up and down like a yo-yo. I can't do it on my own. 'Cause I tried and I can't pull the sword from the stone. I'm fine and I'm not. I'm spinning round and I can't stop. I can't do this alone. Time flies and it's so slow. I'm up and down like a yo-yo. I can't do it on my own. See, I've tried and I can't pull the sword from the stone.
Shout out to Passenger for joining us in studio. Thank you for joining us for another Texx Talks. Be sure to check out textalks.com for more episodes. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts and listen to Texx Talks on all good streaming platforms. From myself, Texx, our producers, Jonathan Ings and Matt Lutz, and our assistant researcher and collaborator, Al Clapper. Catch y'all on the flip side.